start then.
Namaste and greetings. I, Shweta, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav Evam Niti Anusandhan Sansthan, Nai Delhi. Extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI Web Policy Learning. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to day 8 of the final. This is the final day of the Law and Public Policy Youth Fellowship, LPPYF Cohort 4.0 Winter 2024, an online national winter school program, a 3-month immersive online law and public policy awareness certificate training course and internship program. The chair for this program is Professor Vibhuti Patel, visiting distinguished professor at IMPRI. The legal advisor and legal hands-on session expert is Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, visiting senior fellow at IMPRI, an advocate, author, and researcher with expertise in gender and human rights. The conveners for this course are Dr. Ajay Gudavarthi, Advocate Celine Thomas, Dr. Simi Mehta, Dr. Rajun Kumar. The expert panel for today includes Professor Asha Hans, co-chair of Pakistan India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy, a former professor of political science and founder directors of the School of Women's Studies, Utkal University. We will share the course outline and reading resources in your email for your kind attention. Before we start today's session, I would like to announce the housekeeping rules. Please join the meeting on time. There will be a Q&A session after each presentation. Share your questions on the Q&A box and not in the chat box. The questions must not be posted as an anonymous attendee. Ensure that your questions are precise. Refrain from making general comments in the question to save time. To begin today's session, I invite our chair, Professor Vibhuti Patel, visiting distinguished professor at IMPRI, to give her opening remarks. Welcome, ma'am. And over to you.
Thank you, Shweta, for introducing the course, and congratulations, the conveners of today's of this course, for completing this lectures and orientations for and now we have reached a final stage of valedictory address by Professor Asha Hans, and also your creative presentations will also be shared after that. So thank you, Dr. Ajay Gudavarthi, Advocate Celine Thomas, Dr. Simi Mehta, and Dr. Arjun Kumar, and also the conveners, Mr. Satyam Tripathi, Madam Priyanka Negi, and today's moderator, Shweta. Brief outline of what all has transpired. We all started with a introduction of the Human Rights Day, the theme for today, for this year, our rights, our future, our rights now. And on day 1, we had a very interesting discussion on various peace agreements that we had right from 1993, Oslo Agreement, Belfast Agreement, Colombian Peace Agreement. And we had Mr. Sandeep Chachra, who gave a keynote address, and he emphasized the bottom-up approach for arriving at peace. And he also connected the question of peace with justice, social justice, distributive justice, and also political economy and the whole relationship of the post-colonial countries with the global north. We had Ms. Rita Manchanda, who spoke on narrativizing women, war, and peace in South Asia. She gave so many personal experiences of hers of working and negotiating with the survivors of various wars. And on day 2, we had Professor Swaran Singh, who deconstructed concept of peace in a different socio-cultural, political, and geopolitical context. And we had Dr. Gladstone Xavier, who focused on the navigating displacement and peace. And he also talked about that how the policies and practices for refugees or the forced migration or the conflict-ridden areas, they also create a material basis for conflicts and wars also. And he demanded we need the intervention of the state and not state actors, mainly all stakeholders engagement as a very important pathway of participatory resolution, conflict resolution. And he also said we need a disaggregated data of various types of conflicts and the survivors of the conflict so that targeted intervention can be made. And he also asked for inclusive framework for the peace for all stakeholders. And he said that we need to have equitable allocation of resources and their accessibility for a very important and very just rehabilitation policy. After that, we had Dr. Sina Paul, who explained to the participants of how to convert your idea into a research article, and step by step, she explained the processes. On day 3, we had Advocate Flavia Agnes, who talked on reforming legal system and gave a detailed profile of the legal reforms that came right from the nationwide anti-rape campaign till the recent this thing of the Devi Act and POCSO Act, and she showed the limitations of the criminal justice system and why it is important for the women's groups and all to work at a ground level. So supporting the survivor of violence become very important. She shared the Majlis model and that how they are implementing the policies and the budgetary allocation by the state for the rehabilitation of the survivors of child sexual abuse. We had Dr. Shalu Nigam's first legal hands-on focused on violence against women globally and regionally and nationally, and the backlash that we are facing in terms of varied and forms and intensity of violence and how women are resisting. The new thing which she told about the women's 4B movement of women in Korea, which has generated global interest. It is an online-based movement, and even after the results of American election, even young women in USA are also getting impressed. She also talked about various incidences of non-respect or non-delivery of justice in case of Unnao, Hathras, even Bilkis Bano case. So right from Mathura to Manorama, the whole trajectory of laws betraying the survivors, she mentioned, and she also insisted that we need to have continuously, we need to act as a conscience keeper through our collective action. On day 4, we had Professor Naila Ali Khan, who gave an insider view, being a Kashmiri and who has been in touch with the women's groups in Kashmir. She also talked about how the representation of struggle at a ground level in Kashmir are misrepresented. She also talked about the irresponsible attitude of diaspora community regarding the Kashmiri situation in Kashmir. And she also ended with a demand for an icon like Lalde, who questioned self-abdication of women, subverted reliance on man, and brought in watershed in the cultural and spiritual world of Kashmir. And she said, we need a local icon to empower women and to bring them in the process of peacemaking, peace building, peacekeeping. The second legal hands-on by Dr. Shalu Nigam was on, she began with a tribute to Constitution of India, and she also gave a detailed profile of 15 women who were in the Constituent Assembly, who worked with Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, and recently she has also co-authored a book on this subject, and she talked about the Supreme Court's orders in favor of marginalized people were a result of of the social movements, and she gave examples of Right to Food campaign and Forest People's Rights and National Food Security Act 2013. And she also mentioned Professor Upendra Paksi, who commented on the laws and fundamental rights which are used by the civil society organizations as tools to further human rights and demand accountability of the state towards intersectionally vulnerable people facing multiple marginalities. On day 5, we had Dr. Stuti Roy, a young scholar who spoke on world peace, and she deconstructed this whole issue of peace building, peacemaking, peacekeeping. And she gave a detailed critical reflection on Professor Johan Galtung's, Norwegian sociologist's, important contribution in the area of conflict resolution and the limitations of it, and how she also talked about the critique of this global North's approach towards peace making as a very, very limited in its goal, and it is very schematic also. And she mentioned Leela Abu Lobhot, Azad Issa, and so many scholars from the Oriental societies who have given a decolonial perspective. She also quoted Gayatri Spivak with regards to talking about women only for the imperialist purpose. She gave an example of British colonialists, how they talked about sati and saw it as a civilization mission of the colonial rulers, no? And she also talked about how the International Criminal Court and International Court of Justice, they are making effort to bring Israel to book, but still we see that it is the more than 110 resolutions were vetoed by UNSC and the limitations of UNSC. Advocate Shalu Nigam's third legal hands-on was on women's rights and conjugal relationship. So from a global geopolitics, we came to the local individual problem, and personal is political. That has been the understanding and the ethos of women's feminism and women's movement, that you can't separate personal from larger political happenings. And she talked about the restitution of conjugal rights. She started talking about Fulmani Dasi case, and then she talked about Rakmabai's struggle against forced marriage and cohabitation, how she refused cohabitation with her husband. And she also talked about the Justice Verma Committee's recommendation on marital rape, which Parliament of India did not pass. She showed how women are using Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, and also the Supreme Court currently the kind of insensitive decision taken by Supreme Court of not giving judgment on a case of a child marriage, because the union government has filed petition in October 2024 with an appeal that marital rape, even in case of underage bride, should not be criminalized, and still the decision is in abeyance. On day 6, we coincided with International Human Rights Day, and Dr. Vaida Naina, she spoke on the future of equality and dignity and effectiveness of international law in the context of Israel. She focused on in-depth critical reflection on the Israeli genocide attack on Palestine, and she gave so many incidences in which UNSC or the International Council for Voluntary Agencies or various international NGOs, as well as the UN bodies, how they came together, 15 of them came together asking for accountability of Israel for this genocide. And she felt hopeful. In fact, there was a lot of skepticism about how UN has failed in this case, is recent conflicts. They have not been able to play any kind of a role there because of the UNHC's construct. The way UNHC is organized, it is the veto power given to 5 superpowers that is resulting into non-action by the UN. Dr. Shalu Nigam gave 4th legal hands-on localization of SDGs. She explained 17 SDGs, and she said that how the efforts are being made to localize the goals of SDG. And she also said about how the state and non-state actors are involved in localization of SDG. And on 7th day, that means we had Professor Anuradha Shenoy, who spoke on women, peace, and security. And she also talked about the polarization of debates on women, peace, and security among the women's organization. She gave several examples of Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Chittagong Hills, Northwest Frontier, Bangladesh, and also Afghanistan. And she said that how militarization promotes use of violence and hierarchy in a day-to-day life. And she emphasized the resolution 1325, which is not a final. It is just a part of the process of women's movement that developed due to CEDAW, NFLS, Nairobi Forward Looking Strategy, Vienna Convention. And she, again, the question of that, if UN is not effective, then what do we have any alternative? Shouldn't we pressurize UN to demand accountability from all the nation states who are violative against all the authoritarian regime and against this kind of a genocide and the conflicts which are there currently on 14 geographical locations on this planet. Thank you very much. And today, now we are going to be enlightened by the valedictory address of Professor Asha Hans. Thank you. Over to IMPRI.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I would now like to invite Professor Asha Hans, co-chair of Pakistan India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy, a former professor of political science and founder director of School of Women's Studies at Utkal University, for a valedictory address on fostering human rights, peace and democracy, strategies for promoting inclusion. Well, welcome, ma'am, and over to you.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And today what I was thinking is that look at it from a very broad perspective. And that because you have already done everything and know so much that it'll be just like a winding up session. But at the same time, there might be things that, it's very important that we look at. Because the work that I do is on peace as well as on conflict. So I look at it from that perspective. And as you can see, this picture is from Gaza and what has been happening there and in other parts of the world. And link it also with other issues of not only conflict but peace. And as Vibhuti wanted that I should look at democracy. And also I feel that if we as as a feminist, one of the things that I do is usually look at patriarchy and what happens when patriarchy comes into very little work is being done, but still, it's something that we should do. This is of the climate change that is happening where I live on the coast here, and there has been displacement and migration, etc. The whole, I think any feminist thought that we have, any feminist work that we do, this is the most important document. The 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and we have to keep that as part of whatever we have done, so that we know that it is narrowed down to that there are two words on it which are very important: dignity and rights. And where women are concerned, that is what matters, and that's what is very, very important. Not only born free, but equal in dignity and rights. Now, looking at it from a feminist approach, which this lecture I thought would concentrate on, I will, as I said, look at it from a human rights base, but look at it also from global, where global issues are concerned. The overarching is what we all are looking for and we want to do is the search for peace, to understand the impact of militarization and an increased market. We also will today see if the democracy is what we think democracy should be, and whether there is something where we are concerned in terms of intersectionality as well as inclusion of people. I work a lot on disability, and I think that it's very important that we don't leave out many of the people who are there with us. The impact of the award system, if we are looking at peace, we begin with war because that is where we are most of the time. It produces gender inequality and a culture, a militarized culture which makes its way down into our homes, which makes its way down into our society. So if you see violence today in any of our countries, you will see one of the reasons is that there has been a lot of armaments that are bought, a lot of militarization on our borders. There are skirmishes, there are wars that are being fought both in Ukraine and Gaza. But that militarized culture comes into our lives and into our homes, leading to a lot of domestic violence, leading to a lot of violence on our streets among the young people. One of the things that we always look at is that what we want to do in the future, and that is human security. But national security, the other reverse point, is embedded into what all we do. And that is something that is very difficult to get rid of. Now, the first issue is that of militarization and the war system. I think what I look at is I will broaden the concept to look at it not only from what we do usually is to look at it from masculinity, but look at it also what is happening in the market and the impact of the market on, or you can call it colonialism, you can call it capitalism, liberalization, neoliberalism, but it is the marketplace which is so very important where weapons are concerned, where we buy from, where we sell, how much profit we get, and how does it impact all other budgets in terms of social, whether it is health or whether it is education, which go down so much. And what is the impact on the environment? Because the war system, the weapons have a very large impact on the environment that is there, and we shall see that how it is, what is happening in the world. So the three things are the war system, patriarchy, and the impact of climate change. But the response, as I said, could be democracy. We could respond to these issues on women, peace, and security, and the concept of human security, which some of us have done to a large extent. The first is Ukraine, where the war is taking place, which took place on 24th of February 2022. The amount of people who have been killed, women and girls, a large number of them, and also more than that injured. One of the things that happens in every war, wherever it is, whether it's small or large, whether it's in Sri Lanka, whether it's in Nepal, whether it's in India, is the displacement. 4 million internally displaced, and also there are a huge number of refugees from Ukraine. The photo is of a friend of mine Olena Suslova, who works with women and with the state on conflict-related sexual violence. And she was saying that the amount of forced migration that has never been there. And as we see the figure, 6.5 million people who have gone to Europe, and 4 million who are displaced within the country. Refugees and displaced together would make about 10.5 million. And that is a huge amount. That is one of the largest forced migration. I remember when we had partition was about 10 million both ways. So this is one country sending out 10.5 million. There is also, when we talk about developing countries of the South, we always think that school dropout and marriage go hand in hand. That children drop out of school, especially girls, and they are married off to keep them safe. But the same thing is happening in Ukraine. And because though at one time Ukraine was the breadbasket of the world, India gets its wheat from there. But food insecurity is very, very high at the moment. Gaza is the other thing that has been happening, the war that has been happening. Again, the amount of deaths that are there, every picture that we see on our television screens or on our newspapers is of young children, small little babies, small children who are killed. There are rarely any houses left now in Gaza. People are living in tents and at the stage of famine. It's not only food insecurity like in Ukraine, but it is at the stage of famine. And most of them are across the border in refugee camps. This is what happens when a war takes place. This is a photo that I took of Kargil after the Kargil war, and it shows how the environment gets impacted by the war, the guns that are used. There is not even one living plant that is there. And climate, we know that it impacts women very much disproportionately. The work that I have done across is, you see, the work that I do is not on conflict, but some work that I've done is on conflict, but most of it is on climate, on whether it is on arid zones or whether it's on the coastal. But these are the things that happen where women are concerned. And in every case, gender-based violence increases. There is migration. I'm doing at the moment something with FAO on the coast, and the large number of amount of migration that is taking place, and because there is the villages are no longer there. In the same way, where conflict is concerned, um, there is migration. It is not migration, but refugees and displacement takes place. Now, it is said that if you are going to, it has been predicted that if there is, by climate feminists, that if the planet warms by 4 degrees Celsius, there will be a 26% of increase in conflict risk. You can imagine that if we have any more wars, what is going to happen? Until now, the amount of war, with 2 wars, the climate influence has tremendously gone up. So you can look forward to a place where people will be dying of hunger, of poverty, and maybe move much more. Even now, you will see many people moving, even from countries like India, which never had people moving, but they are moving now. The cost of wars is very, very high. And you can see that today, where military spending is concerned, we have reached the highest amount of military spending ever, 2,443 billion in 2023, which is about 6.8% increase from 22. So it's increasing every day. I was at the COP in Dubai year before last, where it was said that the developing countries have asked the developed countries that since you are responsible for the climate change, you must also be responsible, seeing that we come back to a place where there is no, which is safe for our children, safe for our families. So the Green Climate Fund was set up, but the amount of money that they have been asking for is minimal. Even this year at COP29 at Baku in Azerbaijan, the amount of money that was promised was not even 1/100th of what had been asked. And if NATO, the amount of weapons that NATO, the amount of money that NATO spends, 1.26 trillion, if they did not spend that on the weapons, 12 years of climate finance of 100 billion a year could have been made. And that would look up. I met people from Vanuatu, from the Pacific Islands, which are now no longer, maybe in a couple of years, they will no longer be there. The conflict in Gaza, the amount of climate change that has taken place, the environment, 75 coal-fired power plants operating for a year. We don't even have 75 coal-fired plants in many of the countries. So that much of impact it has had. And then the climate cost of the 60 days, the first 2 months of Israel's military response was burning at least 150,000 tons of coal. 40% of Gaza's farmland has been destroyed and 2,000 agriculture buildings. That means that for the next so many years, you will not have, Gaza will not have any farmland where they can grow their food. There's going to be food insecurity for many, many years to come. The climate cost of Israel itself was equivalent to burning at least 150,000 tons of coal. A country which is fighting a war gets also, it's not only the enemy, but also you yourself are impacted. So what do you do? This is the wars that are going on. What do you do? States must commit to the UNFCCC, the United Nations organization that looks after climate change, and every nation state has to file a nationally determined contribution where they say that we will reduce so much. If they do not and there is war, you cannot even have, say, for example, that we have now a lot of green power coming on. We have solar energy, we have wind energy, but none of these are going to happen if you have a war going on. So climate change has been linked to peace under UNSCR 2242 of 2015, the Security Council agenda, which had begun with 1325. This is the added one, and it says that it was at Dubai where the Declaration on Climate Relief, Recovery and Peace took place, because that peace is featured as a thematic day. That has never happened. This is the first time that the climate change conference of parties that takes place every year, they agreed that it should be linked to peace. Militarization is a product of neoliberalism and arms production and reducing social budgets. We have to link, because that is where weapons are manufactured, weapons are sold. India, for example, we used to buy weapons. We have a huge amount of budget for that. But now, for the last couple of years, India is starting to sell weapons. So that means it's making profit on those to spend. So here we are, who are the people who do that? Usually sometimes states do it themselves, but usually it is the corporations. It is the marketplace that is increasingly getting money. So when the corporates come in, that means that the militarization will increase, because they are interested in selling weapons and for profits. And that is one of the things that is happening, that where women are concerned and peace and security is not there, because there has been a large market in the global sphere, which whether it's Boeing or whether it's, we have even Adani here, which is also looking for weapons to be made. But one of the things that happens during this, while people are fighting wars, while people are even trying to negotiate, that patriarchy is something that is a part of the war. We usually think of patriarchy that it is at home, that if I don't get, if I want land, it goes to my brother, because the patriarch, is supposed to be the father. But patriarchy goes much more than that. During wars, patriarchy is not only, it is not male children, it is a political thing. It is where patriarchy is concerned, we all live in a hierarchical situation where women are usually at the bottom. And it is where violence against women takes place. Immense amount of violence to control women, whether it is in Bosnia, whether to Manipur, or whether it was Sri Lanka. The IPKF in Sri Lanka, it was not the local people, it was in Bosnia, where women were raped and not allowed to have children till they were not to have abortions, so that the ethnicity could change. In Manipur, you can see the rape of women taking place. So it's all over. It's not only wars that are between countries, it's also wars within the country. For example, Manipur, where there is a lot of weapons being used, small weapons by people themselves, including women. And women's bodies then become the recipient of that. There's a new word that is being used more and more as we go along where global society is concerned, and the use of capitalism and in weapon manufacture and sale is capitalist patriarchy. That is the unholy marriage between patriarchy and capitalism. Beside the weapon industry, There are other industries which are linked to it, which are also $1 billion. For example, the pornography industry, sex trafficking, mm, even the kind of toys that are made, and guns that are made. These are which tell you that our children, that where weapons are concerned, are okay, that you can use them. Capitalist patriarchy therefore objectified women. So we are just bodies on which the nation state rests. We are the bodies on which capitalism as well as militarism is fought. We are the spreading of hegemonic masculinity, also among men, also some women. We cannot say always men. One of the things that at every meeting I have with students, they used to ask, "Mm, ma'am, so what about the mother-in-law if it's a case of dowry?" So it's not only men, it's also patriarchy is the kind of power that you have, who holds the power within a house, who holds the power outside. But we know that whoever it is, whether it's boys and men or girls or women, it dehumanizes people. And that is something that we should look for. Beside militarization, one of the things that happens is the social impact of a war. Mm, The social violence, as I said, it is not only on the borders, it's not with guns, it's also there are other kinds of violence that take place, and the states become much more violent because there are wars being fought, there are borders that are to be protected, as it is said. Uh, these are the figures that are there of 2018, where the amount of violence against women is there. And most of these also is not only intimate partner violence, there's also other sexual violence which is outside, and mostly against young people. Gender-based violence is something that happens much more in countries where there is war, much more, which has a militaristic attitude, any country. That is why these figures are so important. The sexual abuse that takes place on women's bodies because of this, the figures that we were talking about, that women have to live with that trauma. Kamla Bhasin, who was one of the a leading feminist, said that they are using their bodies, and every time they rape a woman, they lose a bit of their humanity. So it is not only men, it is not only women, it is men who have been impacted by the rape that takes place, and millions of rape across the world. The women's place in human rights is always recognized. The global call of women for gender equality. mm, for many, many years, we talked about equality. We said that is what is the response to all this crisis that is taking place, the war that are taking place. If we have what we can stop those, we can reduce them by creating gender equality between men and women. Uh, and in 1995, the Fourth World Conference on Women in Beijing brought about the Declaration and Platform for Action, which today now we are having the 30th year of the Beijing Declaration next year, and most of us have been preparing for that. And so this is something, one of the greatest documents that has come out, and it's not only 1325, it is also the Beijing Declaration, which can be used by states, which we must learn about what are those 12 action points that they're talking about. What should we do? So this is a good document, I think, for all of us to look at and remind ourselves that what are they we many of us were there at that time. What we did to create this document, why did it? For the first time, I remember it was also a youth, not only a peace gathering. There were women, but also there were a lot of disabled women, about 200, I think, for the first time that they had gone. Beijing was not easy for women because we were outside the main platform, but it was a, you can say, where solidarity of women across the globe took place. And that is why it's important that we keep reminding ourselves that women's solidarity is so important, whichever country we are, wherever we are, because Beijing Declaration reminds of that solidarity that all women across the globe came and built and created this platform. About democracy, there has been two ways of looking at it. One way is that democracy is supposed to create equality. And what Aristotle has said about deliberative capacity, we discuss, we talk. It is not the idea of one person. It is the idea that comes from the bottom up. It comes from the people. The great writers on democracy, though I think they are now, and there was nothing feminist about their writing, but since then there have been a number of writings which feminist writers on democracy have written, but I think the earlier ones like John Locke, Rousseau, etc., though Rousseau did write about women. The democracy, the ability of women and girls to participate safely, freely, and equally in political life and in society, which is the defining feature of democracy. We participate, we we deliberate, we talk to each other. That is what democracy is, and that is something that we need to take care of, to see. Because this is what lives. I was reading this book yesterday. In fact, Isabel Laurie, a queer feminist theorist, says that present-day democracy is without a people and without a nation. You cannot say that this is for the people, by the people, the kind of old this thing that there are borders. Democracy, India is a democratic nation. Bangladesh is a democracy. Or Albania is a democracy. Present-day democracy is without people and without a nation. Rather than regimes of borders and migration, its borders are sexism and racism, homo and transphobia, colonialism and extremism. That is what needs to be removed. These are the things that we remove to create the democracy that we want. If you're interested in one of the earliest books, that was a good one, that was by Carol Bateman, which was written by 1989 on the disorder of women. My favorite one is the UNHCR 1325 on women, peace and security. I think this is very important, where if you have to do away with militarism, you have to do away with inequality. You want equality for all women, because it talks of four things of participation, prevention, protection, relief, and recovery. I'm sure you must have done these during the course, and but it's a very important document, which unfortunately many states now, there are 108 states who have national action plans which they produce, but many like India have not signed it and do not want to be part of that. But even those who have not signed UNSCR 1325, which was important because it was the first document which came out of the Security Council, which is a women's document, and which was brought about by two countries of the South, Namibia, which promoted it, and Anwarul Chowdhury, who was from Bangladesh, who was then the president of the Security Council for that time. So it was not only a document which came from the Western countries, it came out of women's meetings at the Hague Appeal for Peace. People like Cora Weiss, Betty Reard, and all of them were there. But it was also much more than that, where 108 national action plans are concerned. Many of the important countries are left out. And at the moment, there are people who like Mavic Calavera, who has been working with 1325 at the grassroots level. She says, why we don't need to do that at the national level, we can do at the grassroots level. she's even worked in Assam in northeast of India. My organization, feminist organization that I work with, has produced a national action plan. So there has been some movement, and this is the Security Council when unanimously passed 1325, which is very, very rare in the case of a UN Security Council, as you know. Now, though most women, we know that in decision making, women are barely there. No one sits at the table. Even now, if you saw the table, how many of the women are there? Very rare faces that you see. But we are very good in advocacy. We are very good in trying to create across the borders friendships. I remember going to North Korea and South Korea, going across the border from South Korea to North Korea. We've done that across the world. We've done that with women of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Then we also did that in Rwanda. So there are many things that have been done, but 3 days before the attack in Israel on Gaza, thousands of women from two peaceful groups gathered at Jerusalem Tolerance Monument for a rally and a march. Israelis from Women Wage Peace carried blue flags, and Palestinians from Women of the Sun flew yellow ones. But in many countries, people don't want you to hold a Palestinian flag. In many countries, people don't want you to hold. So this kind of bringing together of women is something that rarely takes place, but it happens all the time because we are there. My last part that I would like to look at is intersectionality, which inclusion is not only of women who are in the war, Israelis, and as we saw, the Palestinians. That is very important. But at the same time, women have their intersectionalities. You have trans women, you have, I work with women with disabilities, and one of the recent work that I did, living on the coast, that the kind of trauma that women face, and it is not only the trauma of, displacement, it's the trauma and the mental anguish you have of the loss of a community. When you move, you don't have a community, whether it's climate change or whether it's war. If you move to places where I remember doing a lot of work on Sri Lankan refugees when they came to India, and they spread in across the whole of Tamil Nadu. When you went to any of the camps, it was, you could do that for the longest I could do field work was for 20 days. After that, it was very depressing. The kind of stories that they told you, the kind of mm, what they had left behind, and how the memories of their home, and the living without food, living without a house, being dependent on other people, that kind of things that happen. So when you are uh, as it is a person who has been displaced, you have a disability, it becomes much more, because then you are dependent on your family, you're dependent on your community completely. You cannot do anything. So this is something that happens to all these women who are displaced and who are women with disabilities, because they might not even get a wheelchair if they want one. They might not get food that they need because they have an allergy. So these are the kind of things that we have to look to when we do any kind of work that we do, and any kind of research that we do, that uh, we are concerned, we must not forget that there are people who are sitting on the sideline. There are people who are marginalized so much that they cannot talk, they cannot tell you anything. and that we could be the voices, but our work is not to be their voices. Our work is to bring them in, to see that they talk, so to tell us what is it that they need. But usually when we have donor agencies working in camps and in conflict zones, uh, it is they who decide. This is something that we have to, I think, overcome. And some of the issues that we would have to face as to the amount of violence that is faced by trans women, by women with disabilities, and others who are marginalized. If that was the violence data that I gave you, this data, if you look at these groups, will be much, much more, and it will be very, very difficult to get them to even share with you that they had been raped or they had faced. So if I'd be happy if there are any, if you would like to take the, forward some of the things. I'm sure that I left out so much, but within this time period, there is a very limited time period. We need much more to discuss this. And I'm sure we would be doing that next time that you're doing.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your enlightening address. We deeply value your insights and also for your thought-provoking perspectives. I would now like to invite the chair, Professor Vibhuti Patel, for her remarks.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Asha Hans, for such a comprehensive presentation. And most important thing was showing the interconnections, war and market, climate calamity and war, and also the xenophobia and transphobia, insensitivity towards disability, all these things, how they are interconnected. And another very important, who produces weapons and who is buying weapons. I think that also now more consciousness is coming, and also telling us that how this militarization dehumanizes women, escalates violence against women, and also treats women just as bodies. My two important questions that I have, you mentioned Beijing plus 30, but women's movement globally as well as in our country is completing 50 years, no? It will be 2025, will be completing 50 years. Do you think that this glorious legacy of activism will continue? Do you think the younger generation is responding to the concerns with the feminist movement over last 5 decades have raised? Second, a question is about the recurring theme that emerged in several sessions of this course, is that as UN has exposed its limitation, can we mobilize our public opinion and focus more on International Commission for Jurists and International Criminal Court, because they are the ones who are now conscience keeper of the global community.
Is the one that the small islands in the Pacific have gone to the court. They went to the UN, came all over the place. I met them recently in Bangkok at their SCAP meeting, but finally they gave up. And even in countries like India, when we see that the only thing, we have so many laws, but still many of them don't work. So what do? You go to the courts. And in many of the cases that we have seen, all of us have seen, that the cases that they have got justice. So if you are looking for justice, I'm sure the younger people who are here today, the new generation who's coming, are also looking for the same. Because that is something, whether it's climate justice or whether it's justice because you have been raped or you have had some kind of violence within your family, that is what you look for. And I think what you mentioned, that the courts have been one of the places. I'm not saying that the only way, but what we need is many more, what my friend Betty Reardon used to say, we need more peace educators. We need peace education and we need peace educators. So I hope that many of the young people who are here with you would become peace educators. They are the ones who will take forward this thought. It's not only standing, because now you know that no one wants us to stand on the road and shout slogan that we used to do.
Everywhere they have just taken, the local self-government bodies have just taken away all the places of democratic expression. Same in Mumbai, same here.
So we have to look for new avenues.
Yeah, we at least have railway stations. So we, yeah, some of the big railway stations, we have become now the ground for protest. Yeah.
So this is the only way I can, one of the major ways, two ways that I can see. One is that we become peace educators ourselves, teach in our classes, teach outside the classes, like Swata and I do our courses, or you are doing this course. I think that is a good way of motivating young people.
Yeah.
Second is, if you are forced to do nothing else, then we go to court, but you need money for that. And for that, then you need to get together with groups who will go with you, who will support you. And that is possible.
Yeah. Thank you for the enlightenment. You can stop sharing, no? So that others can too. Yeah.
Yeah, so the floor is open for questions now. Participants can put their questions in the chat box, the Q&A box, or can raise their hands.
Chat box. Is it, there no question in the Q&A?
No, there are no questions.
I don't think there are any questions. Maybe someone can say what they feel, what is their response to your question. That
Yeah,
what way out.
Please give your feedback also, no, participant, because this is the last session. So yeah.
Anyway, thank you for inviting me. It's, at least gives you a place to think, if nothing else. You talk, but you also think of what to do in the future and how to do it, and that is very important for all of us. And I'm sure Shweta and Priyanka and all also have had a good time listening to good people. Yeah, the best in the country. So thank you so much, Vibhuti.
Yeah, most welcome. Thank you for enlightening. It's very, very comprehensive treatment. And it ended with all the lectures and all were extremely enlightening. And they also, now they will have the creating expression of all the participants. Some are going to write essays, some are going to write chapter for anthology. Some will be making photo stories, picture stories, and poem. And so
All the best to all the participants, and show a very, very happy New Year, Christmas, all the seasons greeting. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, now moving on to the presentations for today. We have shared the order of the presentation in the group, so we'll go according to that. First, we have Mr. Abhishek.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, please. Yeah.
You can switch on your video for better interaction, and you can start sharing your PPT.
I do not have option.
Abhishek ji, if you'll just accept the join as panelist option, that will be giving you soon. Yeah. If you just accept it, then you'll get the option for video and the share button. Yes. This goes for all the participants. If you'll just accept the promote as panelist link that we are sharing, just accept it and you'll be able to share your presentations. Thank you.
Yeah, am I audible right now?
Yes, you are.
Uh,
Yeah.
it is visible.
Yes.
Yeah, just I'm sharing my slides.
Yeah, it's visible.
Yes, is it visible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone present out here. So I am going to write a concise essay on the theme of the program and with integrating my own background in it. So my title of the essay will be Bridging the Divide: How Inclusive Economic Policies Can Foster Peace. Moving forward, I read and even had a talk with different type of professors in my college and my surroundings of my cousins, and I found two major problems in this field. One was economic frustration often escalate into social unrest, and we have also seen this in the Indian context. And second is persistent inequalities fuel division. As a major debate in Indian context, as we see inequality in the division of the income, and how does few political parties take up this problem, and how this situation actually creates conflict within the nation. And why am I taking this problem is to resolve few research gaps, and I have pointed out into 3 points. Number one, understanding the process, how actually the inequality will how does inequality lead to conflict, or how does inequality bring frustration in the social class, and how does the income of a group uh, actually translates into frustration and rebellion, what do you say, actions towards the country. Second is highlighting the success stories. Obviously, if there is a problem, there has been some or other solutions in the world. So I will be taking up success stories of how economic integration of those social population or the masses have actually reduced the conflict and brought up peace in the country. And third, the scaling solution. What can be prominent programs that are being brought up and can be brought up in the near future to actually tackle this uh, peace problem in a particular nation. My essay will only confined to India, uh, and a particular nation, not taking the world as my detailed research. What what is my research approach toward it? There are three major questions that I'm going to deal with in this. Number one will be, how do economic inequalities contribute to conflicts, as I talked about in highlighting. Number two, what can we learn from successful intervention in fostering peace? How does government intervention, how does subsidy, how does welfare economics actually foster the peace and reduce the conflicts in a particular nation? And the third is, how can effective policy be scaled to other regions? Just not because there are different type of policies that we have seen in our economic terminologies, that is capitalism and socialism debate, the US laissez-faire policy and the USSR communism policy. Uh, Someone tells let the market decide, and someone still no governmental intervention is necessary. So what are the effective policies for India, and how will it foster in reducing the conflict within the nation? And the methodology that I will be using: number one, analyzing the case studies, the very big thing in of India and the neighboring regions, and the case studies to bring up a concrete solution for India. I will be taking three nations, Rwanda, Northern Ireland, and South Africa, as my case studies to bring up uh, effective policy for India and the Southeast Asia country. But why it matters to me, there are two biggest significance. One is actually I am from economic background, and it actually can offer actionable strategy for policymakers. I know this is not what the policymakers or the peace builders will be looking forward to, but maybe my work can contribute to the field, or someone can take up the idea of economic integration into reducing conflict and fostering peace. Second is demonstrates the transformative power of economic policies in fostering peace. How does power of economic policy actually, and how much power does a policy can have into fostering peace? And while I conclude this has been one of my very throughout my graduation period. And just because living in India, listening a lot of inequality debates about how is capitalism not for India, or it is against the tradition of the country as a whole. But economic inequality obviously possesses challenges but also opportunities, as we know. By learning from successful interventions, here successful intervention means governmental intervention, government policies, government roadmaps, and how does a government shape its framework to foster economic development and growth, while maintaining that there are no such internal conflict happening in the country, and we can craft a roadmap of reducing disparities and promote peace globally. And I feel India, knowing a lot of experts tell this century is of India. So maybe India can be the first nation to take a step of having a conclusive and inclusive policy of economic, where it talks about reducing the conflicts. And we see in India there is an issue of Manipur, there is an issue in Kashmir. So how these regions with economic integration can have a very good impact in the society and the country. Thank you very much. This is my presentation, and this is what I'm going to submit my work on for this program.
Vibhuti ma'am, any
Yeah.
remark?
Yes. So how are you going? What will be your research methodology? How will you go about? Will it be based on interviews or primary data collection or content analysis of the already existing articles, reports, and documents?
Ma'am, just because constraint of time, and from January I will be having my graduation semester exam as well, so I won't be able to do the primary data. I thought when I was working on it, but I will be having a literature review, uh, a lot of quantitative debates over it, and the reports and articles integration in my whole essay. So
Okay.
so more focus on literature review, more focus on the debate, and more focus on the policies, uh, and the peace building activities and programs
Will
in the
you
world.
also include? Will you also include some case studies of successful models of peace building?
Right, absolutely. With talking about the successful stories, I will be bringing the idea of India, and the how India can actually implement in its own way. Because I feel one size do not fits all. That is
Right.
one of my very big principle or the motto in whatever I work. So maybe I will take case studies, but I will bring a unique framework for India itself.
Thank you. I think it's a good work.
Thank you very much.
You have finished. Yeah. You have gone through most of the available literature on the subject.
I have gone through 5-6. I've read 5-6 research papers, and there is one professor who is also very what do you say, inclined towards political economy, and want to do so. So he's helping me of getting more materials and more reports, how I can do. So I'm
No, I'm
trying my
really
best to
happy. Yeah, I'm really
bring a
happy that you have gone for a political economy perspective, which is so important, that material basis. Thank
right.
you. Where are you? Which university?
I am from Bhawanipur College. It's affiliated to Calcutta University. So the professor is from the Calcutta University, just completed his PhD 6 months
Okay.
ago.
Yeah. Thank you. Really encouraging. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Miss Aditi, you can go next.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I visible?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah. Is it?
Yeah.
Am I visible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there some issue? Okay. Yeah. So I shall be presenting now. Oops. I guess what should I click on? Is it screen
Can
specifically?
you see the share option?
Green share.
No, after share,
Green.
there are a lot of options.
Green
I guess
and
it is
green color.
screen. Right.
So, yeah.
Is your presentation open in your desktop?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Just a
So when
second.
when you click on share option, then can you see some little tabs? Is it showing some little tabs? And one of them is your presentation that is open in PowerPoint, right?
Right.
Yeah. So just tap on that, and then
Is it visible right
no,
now?
there would be another submit. There is another button if you see
Just a
towards.
second.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
is it
Yeah.
okay? I'm sorry, I just arrived. I was outside, so okay.
Yes, we can see now.
Yeah. So I should just continue it like this, right?
Yes,
It's
works.
visible, I suppose. Okay. So my topic is synergies between institutional and citizens-led peace building. Post apartheid South Africa. So basically, for selecting this topic, my motivation was that citizens are active agents of change. So only if the change will come only if citizens are active enough. To demand change and to actually hold governments accountable. So for this presentation, my approach would be to relate it to to present world situation or even to Indian context. So this is my abstract. So I'll be focusing on both the institutional peace processes and citizen-led efforts, specifically in post-apartheid South Africa. So because the basic premise is that the conventional peace building it can actually hide inequalities in society, which then manifest through conflicts, and it creates us versus them feeling. And for example, in India, we have this firefighting approach, wherein we just deal with a riot and then we move on. We don't actually go through this healing process for society as a whole. So through this, it's like conflict resolution. We have to go beyond the perspective of this only. To just simply resolve the conflict. Conflict transformation. It actually tells that you have to build something desirable in a society, and which brings out constructive change. And then we also, for sustainable and long-term peace, we go through peace building. Which is a gradual process, and John Galtung has worked on this. So this is a bit of a historical context about how in South Africa National Peace Accord was negotiated. It kind of stopped all the violence, which was because of perpetuation of apartheid and the response to it. So communities. The political parties there before drafting a constitution, they actually framed this agreement to cease the hostilities and to actually provide a pathway to actually build a constitution in a peaceful, I would say, peaceful context. Yeah. So it's in that background, and then okay. Yeah, so these two were National Unity and Reconciliation Act and Reconstruction and Development Program. These two were the institutional processes after, drafting the constitution and then elections. So these two programs and acts were, brought out to actually address the socio-economic development of the people and also to establish long-term peace. So it basically tried to, reconstruct society after this conflict. So through this act, we have Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which actually uh, sort of looked at restorative justice so that there could be national reconciliation. And there's this beautiful quote that I have written: "Say no to amnesia and yes to remembrance. To say no to full-scale prosecutions and yes to forgiveness." This was said by the vice president of the commission. And this program, it was more, whereas Truth and Knowledge Reconciliation Commission was focused on, to actually heal the wounds. This reconstruction program was mostly to build a sustainable base. Where socioeconomic development could happen, and these are main principles. Democratization, of course, of South African society was also a critical factor. So, but this shows that there are institutional approaches, but there's a conflict between two because the the programs which are implemented from top, they sort of have this lack of understanding of local context. What actually people want. What are the local needs. For example, in India, main reason of policy failures is this same reason, because it's like imposed from top, and we have to sort of include people in that also. So this approach basically views citizens as passive. They don't have any active role in their own development. So it also undermines local autonomy, and then national actors may favor some local stakeholders. There are obviously different actors on a local community in a local community. So everybody might not find a particular one. If government favors someone specifically, people might not like it. So that collective community building, that doesn't happen. So but if they were if top down and bottom up approaches are combined, we get this community work program, which was specifically designed in South Africa. So it actually tried to address the livelihood concerns of people because they were affected by this long conflicts, and there was no development. Not enough development, and there was conflicts re-emerging. So it basically promoted local ownership, participative process was enhanced, and then it actually enabled community building process. So if it were a formal stated goal, a pompous goal of government, okay, we are giving this to people and we are giving them employment and then we'll address their livelihood, it might not have succeeded. This program, but it actually it was actually through local community that this program was operationalized, because of which people attained a partnership and a stakeholdership in this, and they saw through it, and they felt they kind of felt pride in serving their community. So this chart, it basically shows that how civic cohesion and social cohesion was promoted in South Africa because of community work program. Basically we see this juncture between institutional and citizen-led peace building, but when both of them are synthesized, there are synergies between them, and it basically promotes this sense of constructive interaction happens. There are fairness, inclusion, and equality. This elements that we could see through community work program, it's very it could be applied in India for fairness, for inclusion, for equality. We need to develop this civic culture at grassroots level so that we can hold our governments responsible. We need to strengthen the mechanism of social audit. So, which would promote a sense of ownership amongst us. So, towards the end, it's like this program was essentially, it was rooted in livelihood demands and employment and security demands of local communities. So it actually addressed the root cause of the problem, and it kind of shows us this new peace architecture that we have to implement. Kind of adopt. It's a best practice, I would say. like a state-funded initiative, but locally managed. So you have to give ownership to local people and not just manage it centrally, sitting from a point and disregarding the aspirations of people or the needs of the people. So yeah, I mean, then it actually promotes state responsiveness to immediate community needs and local innovation. And after, I mean, watching Ms. Asha ma'am's presentation, I think I should also include women and peace building in this. I don't know how, but I mean, women are disproportionately affected because of conflicts, and they also have a major role to play in peace building. Yeah, I mean, maybe Vibhuti ma'am could tell me that. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm happy that you have included peace negotiations. It's very, very important. No, Truth Commission. But Truth Commission, we have a very detailed narrative of Truth Commissions in other African countries, how they were conducted, because we had Doctors Without Border. That also is was active, and so many medical professionals were also there in the context of Rwanda, Somalia, even Bosnia, International Criminal. How was this, the whole process in South Africa took place? Were the guilty also called? They were brought to book. They also had to attend the sessions.
Yes, ma'am. But post-analysis says that not, I mean, perpetrators were not always punished, and the victims didn't always.
But
get
perpetrators attended the session. They gave their
Yeah,
submission,
they actually
and they
accepted, yeah.
also confessed and apologized to the victim or to the survivors.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
did it happen?
Occasionally it happened, but otherwise, I mean, post-analysis says that I mean, it wasn't that effective, and it sort of uh, didn't heal, I mean, psychological trauma of people, because they didn't get, I mean, they didn't. It could not actually address the problems because it reopened the wounds, and then people must want something else, and this, not everybody accepts this phenomena. I mean, to just
No, but
simply
see, all
forgive and just
the I have mostly talked to the people because my husband is active in Doctors Without Borders, so I have spoken to most of the psychiatrists and the medical and psychiatric social workers. They said healing is important, so that face-to-face encounter of the survivor and the tormentor is important for healing.
So certainly it
You
was.
say it did
I
not
mean,
happen.
no, ma'am, it happened, but this was just after I read. I mean, criticisms of that, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because currently, like, that is the only current, that you get both the parties together, let them sit on the negotiation table, and the juries will decide what is to be done with the tormentors. So retributive justice versus rehabilitative justice.
Yes.
You are going to focus on these discourses also?
Ma'am, I could focus,
Hello?
otherwise I thought of the program only.
PG?
Yeah, but I could elaborate on that also. I mean, truth. Yeah, I
and
could.
it's also the comparative work, no? Because so many African countries have had truth commissions, no? So
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think,
Yes,
yeah,
ma'am. I could.
the learnings
do
of that, and
Yes, yes, definitely.
because
Sure.
that was demanded even in Gujarat, no? The 2002 women's organizations
Okay,
demanded
yes.
that. Currently, there is a demand for Manipur also, that both the communities
Right,
should be brought on
right,
table.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
So it has a relevance. Thank you. Very good.
Thank you, ma'am.
Your abstract also very focused, and you're going to write
Thank
an
you.
essay, no? You'll be
Right, yes,
writing an
ma'am.
essay for
Yes,
anthology. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kushala ji, you can go next. Kushala Sinha ji.
Am I visible and audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's very hazy, but you are visible. But your screen, you look very
Ma'am,
hazy.
the camera is
That is
little
okay.
bit.
It is not so clear. The image is not very clear, but we can see. Yes.
Yes, ma'am, the camera is a bit problematic. Yes. Can I start, ma'am?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Good evening, respected Chair, Professor Vibhuti ma'am, organizers, and one and all present here. It's an honor to stand before you as we are concluding this transformative journey. I have not only basically deepened my knowledge and understanding about policy, but also the advocacy part was also very well recognized, and it has been a responsibility as change makers in building this inclusive society. So today, as we reflect on this experience, I'm excited to share my research. Just a minute, I'm just sharing my screen. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes. Can you put it on slideshow mode? Yeah.
Yes, yes. Is it okay?
Yes. Yes. Perfect.
Yes, my research topic has been anonymity of perpetrators, a legal analysis in cyber law. This is my abstract. The abstract talks about the anonymity of perpetrators, which has basically became a very significant concern in the cyber law. Basically, this paper explores about the legal implications of anonymity in specific areas like criminal conduct, balancing the right to privacy with the need for justice and accountability. It also especially basically works on encryption, and also it's about the access of the effectiveness of the current legal frameworks, and the acts which have taken into consideration are the DPDP Act, that is the Data Privacy and Protection Act, and also few of the provisions from the IT Act, and how these both provisions basically discuss about the anonymity of perpetrators and what has this acts has taken into picture where we can actually provide justice to the victim. And this analysis basically aims to contribute to the ongoing discourse on how the legal systems worldwide can adapt to the challenges. And this paper can add on to the basically, there are talks about the universal law, the UCC, Uniform Civil Code. So I think there should be a reformation in the IT Act as well as the DPDP Act. That is my hypothesis for the paper. Oh, 1 second, the slides. The identified gaps in the literature which I have found are firstly, there is a gap in the research that specifically examines about how the anonymity affects the legal frameworks from the investigation and the prosecution of the international legal cooperation. And in the international law, we have the GDPR Act, which actually more effectively deals with the anonymity of perpetrators. So my suggestion here would be that the IT Act and also the DPDP Act take some of the provisions from the GDPR Act where the anonymity of perpetrators can be taken into consideration. And secondly, the gap that I have identified in the literature is about the forensics, digital forensics. Forensics, as we all know, that it plays a very important role, and there has been no comprehensive framework about what law it outlines for the enforcement of these agencies, because digital forensics itself plays a very important role, because we have to identify who has done the for example, the Rashmika Mandana's issue about the deep fake video which has come into. So we definitely need the digital forensics for dealing with such kind of crimes that are happening online. And AI has become a very important part in everyone's life, because now we also have AI and law which focus on the digital forensics, and cyber law plays a very important role. So I personally feel that law and policy should aim at the anonymity of perpetrators, where it includes the GDPR Act from the international level to the Indian level about the IT Act and the DPDP Act. So the research is also lacking on how the inability to hold perpetrators accountable affects victims and access to justice, and diminishes public confidence in the effectiveness of the legal system. These are the three gaps that have identified in the literature. Moving forward, the research question which I'm working on is that whether the anonymity of perpetrators affect the enforcement of the cyber law. So because of the rise of the digital technologies and expansion of the internet, which have led to the significant changes in the landscape of criminal activity, particularly in the realm of the cyber crimes. So my research question mainly and importantly focuses on how the anonymity of perpetrators affect the enforcement of the cyber laws. And here I'm taking into a picture of a research where I can focus on the GDPR Act and also what it can bring to the IT Act and the DPDP Act of 2023. My research objectives are to analyze the role of anonymity in cybercrime activities. Secondly, to investigate the legal and jurisdictional challenges of enforcing the cyber law. And thirdly, to explore about the ethical and privacy concerns that are surrounding to the combat the anonymity. My research methodology has been to primarily focus on primary sources. That which I'm taking into consideration is the IT Act 2000 and the DPDP Act of 2023. So, am I properly audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, so I'm continuing about this is a basic brief. Actually, I have completed my research paper, which I have to just review and send it for the IMPRI to take it into, like, if there are any changes. So basically, I have included my whole paper into the presentation. I just want to take you on a brief note about each and every PPT and the main points about that. So here, the technologies like virtual VPNs and the Tor create an anonymity environment where users can hide their IP address. Basically, now dark web has become a very crucial thing where people are using dark web to do the anonymity of perpetrators and everything. So the dark web has been the main source for anonymity, and encryption for the safeguards the communication between the perpetrators, so making it difficult for the law to enforce anything and to interpret or analyze the data. So here the digital forensics plays a very important role, and anonymity can extend it to the pseudonyms on the social media platforms and the online marketplaces, enabling the criminals to create a false identity. Next, going on to the legal analysis, the legal framework. I just want to zoom it a little bit. So these are the sections where I was currently performing my research. I hope that it's clearly visible. Basically, where I'm taking the GDPR Act and also the IT Act and the DPDP Act, the section 66 clause E, the violation of privacy. So one thing that the chair has to notice is that all these sections talk about the violation of privacy, but they don't explicitly talk about the anonymity of perpetrators and how we can tackle the solution for getting into the anonymity of perpetrators. They indirectly talk, but there is no specific provision about the anonymity of perpetrators. So the section 66E, which talks about the violation, it doesn't explicitly talk about the privacy, but it talks about the victim privacy here, and it directly protected. And if the like the perpetrator's identity is made public in the violation of this section, they could face penalties. So again, coming to section 72A, it talks about the punishment for the disclosure of information and breach of lawful contract. This all sections that the chair should notice is that they provide for anonymity but not directly, and it's basically, I realized through the research that we have to interpret by ourselves, and but there is no specific provision about anonymity of perpetrators. So it doesn't really, it's like a broken vase where we are trying to pour water into it. So it doesn't really play any important role in our day-to-day life, and it doesn't like play any role about identifying the anonymity of perpetrators. So it is like the law is there, but still there is lack, and there is a whole sort of gap. So here, and also about the section 66A, the power to block access to information, it also provides, but then the anonymity of protection has to be blocked and removed. And my suggestion also, through the research, I have realized that the intermediary platforms like Instagram, Facebook, these are the intermediary platforms. They are playing a major role in our lives, but instantly when a content is posted, like for example Rashmika Mandana's deepfake video, they have to not give 24 hours to the public or the person who has posted to delete the thing. The Instagram or the intermediaries have to have that public awareness, and they have to know that the person is gonna get affected, and they themselves have to immediately delete the content. Why should they give 24 hours to the person who actually posted to delete that content? So the intermediaries here play a very important role, and we have to understand that. And also the intermediaries themselves should understand that they are having a very powerful place and role in the economy. Moving on, these are all the sections which have personally read and interpreted in the aspects for the law. And I will provide a basic, I would definitely provide a brief about this. So here also, these are the sections for the data, personal data protection, the rights of the data principles and purpose limitations and everything. But there is no actual section, and there is a lack of anonymity of purpose section here also. And there is also cross-border data transfer and data security and processing, but none of these sections actually provide for anonymity of purpose, which is the basic reason for the literature gap which I have found to conduct the research. Moving on to the tools and techniques which the purpeters use here are the VPNs mass, which are obviously there, and the cryptocurrencies. And the party cannot also be identified through this because of the illicit transactions which they are making without revealing their identity. And most importantly, which have been mentioned from the starting of the presentation, is the dark web. It is a platform where the criminals especially, operate anonymously, facilitating all illegal activities, and also the drug trafficking, arms sales, and cyber attacks. Many are being done through this dark web in this modern age. So the role of anonymity in facilitating the cyber crimes, it is basically providing the mask, acting a mask from us being identifying the persons who are acting and everything. And basically it is not something pro to the public policy and public welfare. It is something which is allowing the criminals to, it is like a gain for the criminals to perform these activities through the cyber areas. And like by using dark web, the anonymity is not that the online theft is happening now. The thieves doesn't need for people to get into their homes and take something from their house. It is from their bank accounts which the money is getting hacked and everything. And the cyberbullying, the main focus was about the cyberbullying taking the issue of deepfakes, and I was very much concerned about the cyberbullying that is happening in the online intermediary platforms with no identifiable trace. And cyber criminals are basically feeling very safe by using this dark web platforms for committing their illegal acts without no public responsibility which they are having in themselves. So the risk is very reduced for them to caught, and increases the incidence of the cyber crime, leading to the further complications for the law enforcement agencies such as our agency, which it promotes law and policy website. It is basically acting like a very bane for us also. So these are the challenges for the law enforcement which the anonymity of perpetrators is dealing with. First is the investigative challenges. The police doesn't have any access for dealing with the investigative challenges here, like a regular crime, which is like the crime which we usually take. The cyber crime here, the investigation challenges are a lot, and the jurisdictional issues and international challenges which is happening. Because I would like to provide an example here, taking the jurisdiction and international challenges, because the person, say if a person is from a country, take for example India, a person is committing a crime from India, he is committing the crime in USA by using the VPN of China. This is how the cybercrime is committed. So here the basic jurisdiction is that issue is that there are three countries which are included. The person is sitting here in India, he's committing crime in USA, and the person, the VPN and the network he's using is from the China based network. So the three parties are included here. So this is the jurisdictional and international challenges that the cybercrime is actually facing, and obviously the privacy and security issue which we have in hand. So here is the impact. The brief is that the victim perspective, which I was dealing with, and the public trust in the legal system, and the difference in the problem. And the summary is that that I wanted to talk about, the summary of key findings here is that the IT Act or the DPDP Act does not provide any provisions for identifying anonymity of purpetrators. And the contributing to the field, which every research paper should focus on, is that here I identified the jurisdictional issue, like as I just told an example about how the three countries are getting involved and which country should prosecute against that person is a basic issue. Because of that, we are lacking on this. So my suggestion is that as we are also in a way ahead to having a uniform civil code, we have to also take some of the provisions from the GDPR Act and everything for us to have a proper law. The IT Act and the DPDP Act are covering, but not about the anonymity of perpetrators, which is giving them a gateway for committing crimes without any sense of public welfare and everything. It's like a mask for them, and it is providing a free will for them to commit whatever crimes they're wanting, and it's crossing the lines a lot. And the final thoughts about the area and future research is that while this paper has been addressed several key aspects of anonymity, the emerging technologies is very hard. So basically what my thoughts are that has far now we can't stop the emerging technology. So my thing is that the law also has to go on the same pace with the emerging technology. So that are my final thoughts.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kushala, Sima, very, very, very detailed and very legally, meticulously research paper you have presented. My question is that have you also thought about accountability of intermediaries? Because in Mandana's case, she's a celebrity. So many newspapers wrote about it. So the system responded. But all these young girls who are like giving their complaints and all, nobody responds. On Instagram, the fake images are there. Blackmail takes place. So many teenage girls have been victim of all this, and many of them have committed suicide. They have given up their study. They dread going out and show their face. They have faced tremendous retribution from their relatives and friends and neighbors. They live in isolation, and the intermediaries are not doing anything. Even if the request is made to withdraw that image, that is not happening. So what is the accountability of intermediaries?
Ma'am, that has become a very big issue, ma'am, the accountability of intermediaries. Their point of view is that once they enroll or sign up for some accounts in such platforms like Instagram and Facebook, so they are signing the terms and conditions. And nowadays, no one are reading the terms and conditions which they're actually signing up for. So that has become a very major issue. And ma'am, victims' perspectives, even I have put a specific section for victims' perspectives. Ma'am, but the problem here is by the time the intermediaries take some action, there has been a lot of effect to the victim on the victim side. Like as you told about the neighbors getting involved, harassing her personally, giving her mental tension and everything. So there has been a lot. So my research primarily aims to solve such problems about intermediaries. But when I thought about going about intermediaries, my research was going nowhere. So I was unable to provide any suggestion myself about what to do with the intermediary. It has become a very major thing
So
about
the approach on gender-based violence. State only.
Yes, ma'am, that has become a very
I
major
think we should
challenge.
also talk about the way state looks at gender-based violence. It is only focusing on protect girls and women. Even if you see the framing of IT law, don't do this, don't get into it, please be. But they are not telling anything to the perpetrators. That
Yes,
they
ma'am,
should
yes.
not misbehave. They should remember their limitations, and they are not they are not immune to the legal system. That message never goes. The message goes to girls and women that don't get victimized. No.
Yes, ma'am. So my point is exactly what you have stated, ma'am. You have summarized it very well, saying that that is exactly my point. This perpetrators are getting like they are happily enjoying their. It is like we are giving them a safety that you do
No,
the theft,
so
but we
so
are the
if,
one saving you.
Now that's why we need to tell the law commission also that how are you talking about? You are further victimizing the victim. If anything goes to wrong, it is because it is your fault. You should not be given mobile. You should not be given internet. You should not be. So you are victimizing them. You are not telling anything to the perpetrator. Even the law is talking in that very, very patriarchal this thing of a woman to be protected, girl to be protected, but not
Ma'am,
boys to
yes,
be
ma'am.
disciplined. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Ma'am, I don't know if I can talk about this at this platform. Recently, I am from Hyderabad, Telangana. So, Allu Arjun's case is going viral if everyone knows about that. Ma'am, the basic thing is that no one is speaking about the woman. The
Who
woman
has
died. And she has 2 children, but everyone are asking like, why has she gone
Why
to the
she had to
benefit
go?
show? Because maybe the children asked, she has gone to the benefit show. That doesn't mean that she wants herself to get killed, right? But here also they're pointing
Correct.
at the woman.
Of
So yeah, ma'am.
victim blaming. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
That. No, you can even put this as a case study. No. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, ma'am. Thank
Yes.
you, ma'am.
Very good. Lot of work.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mandara Raj, you can go next.
Yes, greetings all. I've actually added my audio to the presentation, so I'm going to present that.
Yeah.
We can't hear actually.
Yeah. Better you speak. Yeah. Better.
So maybe you have not given the permission for.
Hello.
Was it not audible, ma'am?
No, it's not. No.
I'm not able to hear you.
It's not audible. You can start your video
No.
and speak. Yeah. Yeah.
Is it audible now, ma'am?
No, you are audible, not your.
Okay.
We are. You
I'll
are audible.
speak.
You are trying to play YouTube, huh?
No, ma'am, it is I have prepared it, but as you
You
cannot
can speak.
hear.
No, it is. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So greetings all. So I have my chosen topic is the policy analysis of the 5 guarantee schemes of Karnataka that was uh, rolled out in 2023. So I'm going to analyze how it is going to align with the theme of inclusivity in peace and conflict resolution while also contributing to the achievement of several sustainable development goals. So these schemes are designed to address socioeconomic disparities, promote inclusion inclusivity, and foster peace within communities. So to start off with the introduction, let me start by outlining how these 5 schemes, that is namely Gruha Lakshmi, Gruha Jyoti, Yuva Nidhi, Shakti scheme, and the Annabhagya scheme, they are not just poverty alleviation programs, but are integral to fostering social cohesion and stability in Karnataka. So these initiatives are somewhat kind of reflection for the state's commitment to inclusivity, addressing systematic struggles and promoting peace through sustainable development. So to begin with the first scheme, that is Gruha Lakshmi scheme, it provides a financial support of 2,000 rupees per month to the female head of uh, a very uh, household or economically disadvantaged family. And it targets women, especially those from marginalized communities like the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, empowering them with financial independence. And it also directly contributes to the Sustainable Development Goal 5, that is gender equality, by promoting women's agency, which is actually essential uh, for peace building. It also addresses the Sustainable Development Goal 10, that is reduced inequality, and SDG 1, that is no poverty, by reducing economic disparities and fostering inclusion. And one more aspect is that through transparent direct benefit transfers, this scheme assures accountability and conflict prevention by addressing the root cause of social unrest. So, moving on to the Gruha Jyoti scheme, which provides free electricity for up to 200 units to residential households in Karnataka. This scheme reduces uh, financial burden on low-income families, particularly in rural areas. This scheme also promotes the Sustainable Development Goal 7, that is affordable and clean energy. It also plays a crucial role in Sustainable Development Goal 1, that is no poverty, by alleviating the cost of living, especially for the marginalized communities. By ensuring equal access to electricity for all households, it reduces the social inequalities, bridging the gap between urban and rural areas and promoting peace through economic empowerment of these households. Uh, so the next slide is the Yuva Nidhi scheme. The Yuva Nidhi scheme provides unemployment allowances to young graduates and diploma holders in Karnataka by offering rupees 3,000 to degree holders and rupees 1,500 to diploma holders. So it actually empowers youth to actively contribute to society without the pressure of financial insecurity. And this aligns with Sustainable Development Goal 1 and the Sustainable Development Goal 8, that is decent work and economic growth, and also aligns with the Sustainable Development Goal 16, that is peace, justice, and strong institutions. Actually, here in the Sustainable Development Goal 16, it is more of us to concentrate on the justice part, that is actually social justice, by reducing the risk of social unrest among youth. It ensures that all young people, regardless of the background, have equal opportunities for a dignified future, and also contributing to social cohesion. The next scheme is the Shakti scheme, which offers free bus travel for women across Karnataka. This initiative directly supports the Sustainable Development Goal 5, that is gender equality, by empowering women to participate in public life with reducing barriers to education, work, and also at certain instances, healthcare access. It also aligns with the Sustainable Development Goal 11, that is sustainable cities, by promoting sustainable urban mobility. By easing the financial burden of transportation, the scheme fosters social inclusion, it reduces economic stress, and it also plays a vital role in preventing conflicts arising from inequality. The last welfare scheme is the Annabhagya scheme, that addresses food security by providing additional rice to the below poverty line card holders. This is a direct response to the Sustainable Development Goal 1 and 2, that is no poverty and no hunger respectively. ensuring that vulnerable populations receive essential resources to meet their nutritional needs. It also contributes to reducing inequality by reducing the economic disparities in access to food by addressing hunger and poverty. The scheme also reduces one of the primary causes of social conflict, fostering unity and stability in the state. So, to provide a critical reflection, in addition to these successes, the research also examines certain critical questions uh, that are these schemes merely freebies, or do they have long-term value? Are they contributing to laziness among the population of the state, or are they addressing certain systemic issues? Can they be seen as an economic burden on the state, or do they create a framework for economic stability and inclusivity? And also, uh, uh, it can be, we can include the potential or potential of the purple economy or the care sector is an important consideration for expanding the impact of such schemes. So to conclude with these 5 guarantee schemes in Karnataka, I feel they are not just poverty elevation measures, and they can be seen as vital tools for fostering uh, inclusivity, preventing conflict, and promoting peace. They also align with many sustainable development goals, and they all serve as a model for how state-led initiatives can address the root causes of poverty, inequality, and social unrest. And by focusing on certain vulnerable groups and empowering women, supporting youth, and ensuring access to essential services, Karnataka is laying the groundwork for more inclusive, peaceful, and uh, prosperous future.
Thank you. I would like to invite Professor Vibhuti, ma'am.
Yeah. So, yes, Mr. Mandaraj, yours is a brilliant presentation of localization of SDG, which is the mantra now, that
Yes,
now it should not be just a platitude or a global clarion call, but we have to see in our local context, how can we do this? In Karnataka is a classic example. I also say that you better also unpack other terminologies, not only freebies, because those who call it freebies, we call it social protection, social security, welfare, even the economic empowerment. And today there is a one-page article in Times of India where they have given comparative analysis of how many welfare schemes all 38 states and union territories have. It's a comparative picture. And there are qualitative, 2 very good articles, that how has this kind of schemes made women from the stage of starvation and precarity to at least subsistence, no? In the fast changing economy and the downturn that we have had. So larger macro economic situation is also so bad globally, also in our country, because of the economic downturn, and women are the worst victim of it. So they have talked about all the schemes for elderly, for children, for orphan, for person with disability, and for women. So all those vulnerable sections, and the question of intersectional vulnerability that you can, in terms of theoretical framework. Yeah, vulnerability. So how do you, what all you have gone through currently?
Ma'am, currently I've gone through recently the GSDP of Karnataka stand stop. I've gone through that report, and I'm going to link the effect of these schemes on the GSDP. And also there are various case studies of women being independent. They have started procuring things for their home on their own without depending on any male members of their family. Such case studies I have.
And also mobility also, no?
Yes,
whatever
mobility.
Women make there, so the
Yes.
free transport, that also
Yes,
support. Yeah,
yes.
and also the overall the enrollment in the schools and retention in the
Yes,
schools and the
also
transport.
health.
So all the human development indicators that, how is
I'll
it
link to-
contributing to the human development as well as empowerment? Because you being allowed to go out, that is also empowerment.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks.
Thank you.
The way you have connected it, no, with the different goals, that is very important.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Pradna, you can go next.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, ma'am. My research essay currently is at a really very primary stage and a raw stage. I'll just share a Word file with you. I'll present what I feel like I'll be putting in my research essay, just that the overview or the abstract of what I'm thinking to go ahead with, but it's not at a really advanced level.
Yeah, you can switch on your video.
Ma'am, I'm not in a favorable condition to.
No problem. No problem. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Is my screen visible?
Not now. Now. Only
Yeah.
thing you'll have to increase the font size, not readable.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Okay. How do I do that?
Your split page. Huh?
Okay.
Ma'am,
Is it visible now?
Yeah, now it is visible and it is readable.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so the topic which I have chosen for this essay is coverage of terrorism and legal constraints on media while covering the terrorist activities. So very firstly, just for a brief understanding how terrorism and media is related, or the relation between it is, I have put it in the introduction paragraph, and then I have my research design as to this is yet there is a real flexibility here as to I'll change it. I'm still working on it, but few research objectives that I have in my mind are to analyze the role of media in shaping public perception of terrorism, then to study international guidelines on terrorism reporting and their relevance in India. Further, to investigate challenges faced by media in balancing free expression and national security. This could be one of the research gaps that I'll be putting in the essay. Further, the questions could be, what role does media play in amplifying the terrorist activities by glorifying the, I mean, when I say glorification of media, I means that it increases the risk of sensationalism of the terrorist activities when the media is uh, informing the public. uh, at that time, the media is playing a dual role there by informing the public as well as influencing the opinion of public as to in we can say it in a very raw sense, in a sense that manipulating the opinions of public as they want it to be. So it glorifies the risk of sensationalism of terrorist activities, and there it actually somewhere gives a positive edge to the terrorist because the activities because their aim is being fulfilled through the Indian media as well. So further, the purpose would be to explore how media coverage is of terrorism is regulated, balancing press freedom with national security and ethical responsibility as well. So both of these things could be covered. Further, there are a few positive and negative uh, uh, contributions or impacts that media media is has on covering terrorism. A positive such as it obviously keeps the public informed, and negative such as amplifying terrorist narratives by providing a platform for fear propaganda. Further, inaccurate or hasty reporting that jeopardize investigations. Further, we could also add ethical and practical challenges for media that presently could be faced by the journalist, like balancing the need to inform legal and ethical obligations pressure to report quickly versus accurately and sensitively that we discussed earlier here, which could be a negative impact. So this we can put in ethical and practical challenges. Then self-regulation versus state regulation. Now, can the media self-regulate, or legal constraints are necessary? Currently, legal constraints are necessary. There could be a case study in this subtitled subtopic. Then role of editorial policies in preventing sensationalism. We can put this one in. The what exactly are the legal framework governing media coverage in India currently, or then we can actually show a comparative analysis between India and out of India, international perspective, global perspective. So currently, relevant laws we can put in UAPA, Prevention Act we can put in. Then cable television networks, which provides that incites violence or promotes hatred. Then what regulatory bodies are there that regulates such contents or provides guidelines, that is Press Council of India guidelines, NBDA advisory during terrorism related incidents, and etc. Further, we can also have a comparative analysis, as in with the point of view of journalists, as in how uh, in these legal constraints in regulation of these such media, the how freedom of speech of media has been in violated position, versus how, if not such legal constraints are put in front of media, how it can affect or impact on national security. And then case studies such as 26/11 Mumbai attack could be put in, and 9/11 coverage could be put in, highlighting the global reach of media and spreading terror narratives. Furthermore, the modern challenges what the media today faces could be put in, because it's earlier, 20 years before, decades before, there was only TV media or newspaper media, but now we have digital media as well, social media as well. So, and putting constraints on social media is not as easier for the state to put in constraints on TV media or newspaper media. So there are difficulties. So very firstly, what digital media and social platforms are, that will be explained, and need for updated regulations could be explained, because digital media is so fast that it is not very easy to micro regulate the social media, and it's so wide. So there comes a real problem, that it is very difficult here for the state to regulate social media uh, for such uh, issues. This is a basic idea what I have in my mind for this research essay.
Yeah, that's what my first question was, that whether you are going to focus only on print media and electronic media, or also OTT platforms, because highest number of glorified terrorist film, no,
Yeah.
are in OTT platforms, no, and where the superstars of the world and Indian Bollywood, they are also there as a protagonist, no,
Yes, ma'am.
and they are the central hero. So I think that was the one important concern I had. And second one was that when you talk about the doctrinal methods of research, so I think you need to elaborate and tell that how in legal research this is why it is gaining momentum, no, as a research methodology. Why in legal research many are using this doctrinal research methodology. And yeah,
Yes.
and when you talk about UAPA, many of our friends were behind bar, and some of them are on payroll for taking up genuine causes of poor people. Whether they talk about the urban poor, they are called urban Naxalite. If they are in the forest areas, they are called Maoists. If they are fighting for the agriculture workers' rights, then they are called this thing, no, local terrorists. So are you going to take up that also, where a person like Babri Devi or even person like this one, Soren, what is her name, from Chhattisgarh? They have also, they were only organizing, they were fighting against the corporate vested interest in the local area, where they were just on a land grab, no? And Soni Sori, she is now in PUCL. She was imprisoned, she was tortured, she was multiple people raped her and to demoralize her. So are you going to talk about that also, that in the name of terrorism, how the genuine justice seekers, they have been incarcerated, and also so many times, so many of them have even lost their lives. So many RTI activists have lost their lives. They were labeled as terrorists by the Western interests, but actually they were seeking the right against the predatory vested interest of the builders or the poachers in the forest areas.
Yeah, so I hadn't think about this until now, ma'am, but I think I'll have to research about it, and if yeah, I'll definitely put some of it in my research essay if it
Yeah.
yeah.
Even if you go through the website of Citizens for Democracy or PUCL, and all, you can at least project it. Whether you agree with them or not, that's a different issue. But I think this is what is happening. So many genuine justice seekers, they have been incarcerated. So even Dr. Asha Hunt's, her organization's reports also, even her articles, no, they are also very used. Or Swarna Rajgopal or Kalpana Kannapiran, they have written from the legal point of view, because she's a professor of law at Nalsad. Another thing is that you did not mention sedition, laws on sedition.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that also is being used, no? Even so many senior journalists or people who write in a very prestigious organization, journals, they have also been booked under sedition. That later on they had to, because of the world community and all, and the human rights organizations, they back them. But sedition is also another weapon whenever which is used against journalistic freedom.
Yes, I'll put in sedition through various case studies or case laws then.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go through it. It's in Manusmriti, no? You will get all the case laws.
Yeah.
Thank you, but it's really my major challenge that you have taken, because it's so exhaustive and the scope is so wide. You can
Yeah.
even write a book on it. Yeah, but here you have to do a 3,500
Yeah,
essay
I'll try
for
to
the entire,
summarize it as possible.
and make it as focused, and subtitles should be sharp, so that
Okay.
whatever you want to say is
Oh,
given in a crisp way. Yeah. Thank you.
all right. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Ms. Shanmati Senthil Kumarji, you can go next.
Yeah.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. And I have a very basic presentation of my projection towards the paper that I'm writing as well. So it is a very short and brief representation of what I'm intending to do. I hope my screen is visible and I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
All right. So I am focusing on working towards visibilizing experience of women with disabilities in India. And this is a very personal and passionate topic for me. And that's also a reason that I wanted to put myself in as a part of the presentation as well. So as we all know, in the intersectionality realm, women with disability definitely have been in the space of either silenced or neglected or unseen in many of the in many of the social systems in itself. So this research mainly focuses on understanding their experiences and also to see how those voices can be amplified in order to ensure that all voices are equally heard, all individuals are needs are equally addressed. Yeah. So one of the major things that we'd have to again focus on when we talk about anything related to people with disability in India is definitely the Act, Right of People with Disability Act, which definitely talks about equality and non-discrimination, education, right for employment, and right for accessibility. While all of these are very well written and present in the Act, the application of it is definitely a very interesting one to see, because there are gaps. There are, again, differences in how this is being read to how this is being implied. And these articles are definitely uh, uh, a brief of how this is in practice working as well. Especially, my research is going to focus specifically on women with locomotor disability in Tamil Nadu. And my first article definitely here shows about how in Tamil Nadu, the Magalir Urimai Tittam, which is literally translates to women's rights project that talks about financial support and social support for women, definitely ignores the needs of women with disability in itself. And there are also several articles across India that talks about how women with disabilities are often not considered or not seen for any scheme that does come for women in general as well. So this is the main reason that I did take up this research. And these four would be the objectives of my study. So one is to document the lived experiences, as I've tried to go through all the experiential papers of experiences of women with disability, women with locomotor disability, especially in Tamil Nadu. I could barely find any. There are, of course, datas, like quantitative datas, but those are also outdated. The latest one in Tamil Nadu census is in 2011, and no data or no entries have been done after that. So first is to try to document the lived experiences of women with locomotor disability in specific to Tamil Nadu. Then to understand what are some of the intersectional barriers that are more prominent in these lived experiences. Then third is to highlight the gaps in the inclusion frameworks, though there are schemes, though there are acts, though there are policies that are in place, how that there are still gaps in applying the same in the practical atmosphere. Then to propose inclusive solutions if possible, as much as the insights from the lived experiences that I do receive. So there are three main areas that I am focusing on. One is the career aspect. In Tamil Nadu, the State uh, Research Center for Women (SRCW) definitely focuses on schemes, vocational training programs, and other skill development programs for women. But these are again focused on specific groups of women in in rural areas. Even in the rural areas, it only goes till the town. But what about people in, again, villages? Or even in terms of vocational trainings, there are only a specific set of trainings like tailoring or uh, embroidery and all of that, but not practical training in terms of employment. So that, and also understanding employment opportunities, workplace accessibility in terms of career. In social inclusion, again, the importance of accessibility that we continue to talk about, and uh, how limiting social spaces can be, social uh, events can be for people with locomotor disability in specific as well. And media representation, uh, uh, or representation in any social platforms for women with disability. Then we'd also explore family dynamics in terms of gender roles uh, that does come along in family situations, where women with disability again are either their needs are definitely their need for education or their need for social uh, inclusion in some setups are still ignored, and there are data for how girl children, especially girl children with disability, are ignored. Families ignore them of education or seeking them of any social support, and are also in the lowest hierarchy of priority in different. So in terms of some data, Tamil Nadu, approximately there are around 41 lakh individuals with disability in Tamil Nadu, out of which around 16 lakh are women, and around 21% of them are with locomotor disability. And with regards to my methodology, it will be a descriptive exploratory research. So I am planning on doing a mixed method. So there will be case studies and some in-depth interviews, which are semi-structured. Then also some quantitative analysis from the census, participatory research data, and articles that are presented correctly. So anticipated outcomes is, again, at least in short term, to enhance and to make the experiences of women with disability louder, and then probably evidence-based insights for better policy and recommendations, and community level impact. So in long run, I do hope that this research and more researches like this do help with policy enhancement, where even within my work with corporates, there are definitely policies in place, but application of that policies have definitely been considered, at least in the priority in itself. So enhance accessibility. Accessibility just doesn't mean having ramps or having elevators everywhere, but to help or to provide access to reach that or access that accessible space in itself is very important. So how enhance accessibility can be, of course, education and awareness, improved representation, and more data-driven advocacy is what I'm looking for.
Hello, Shanmati ji. Are you going to write an essay?
Yes, I am planning.
Qualitative research, but so have you completed the review of literature?
Yes, the review, I have done review of literature. Yes.
Because you did not present it here. But
Yeah.
I think, your primary data is very robust and very good. It will give us new insight, but it should be complemented with review of literature.
Yes.
So you are familiar with the writings of Anita Gai, Renu Adlakha, and Indian Journal of the special number of Indian Journal of Gender Studies.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us end to the presentations. Ma'am, okay, and now we can ask the fellows to share their feedbacks, any comments or concerns they have. The floor is open. Okay, seeing none, I would now like to invite Professor Vibhuti ma'am to share her closing remarks.
Yeah, I think we have had a very interesting discussions throughout these 9 days, and we started with the global understanding and the universal human rights, which is a touchstone for any discussion on peace and conflict resolution. But we have now, after completing 50 years of feminist activism, and in 1975, when the United Nations had declared International Women's Year with the focus on equality, development, and peace, all of them are so strongly intertwined. And I think all 9 days where more than 15 resource persons, they also had the same perspective that you can't think of gender equity or equality without changing the political economy or without making developmental investment. And unless you make human development as a central agenda, you can never have a lasting or sustainable peace. So that is very important. We are also now commemorating 30 years and 3 decades of Beijing Platform for Action and all over Asia, even in our country, so many things. And Beijing Platform for Action had identified 12 action agenda, which also touched the issue of peace, conflict resolution, and also linking it with the how macroeconomic policies or the meso-level interventions or the local bottom-up initiatives impact the peace agenda. We have had so many case studies of conflict situation as well as the efforts by the global community, by the state and non-state actors to promote long-lasting peace and through peacemaking, peace building, and peacekeeping. We concluded this important journey on peace education, and I think our valedictory address, Professor Asha Hans, very clearly said what we need is a more and more peace educator, or not only in the civil society, but in the all sectors of the economy and all sections of society. We know that at the time of Vietnam War, it was the soldiers, American soldiers, who refused to go at a war front and kill the Vietnamese people. Their mothers who came out in open and they said that I don't want my son to get into this kind of carnage. So I think it was at that level that the anti-war sentiment had gone. So we have to create that kind of a ecosystem, that kind of a global environment, and also make all the rulers, all the people in power, authorities, and even UN system accountable to the kind of carnage that is going on. Currently, everyone is talking about this new term called just cogence, JUSCOGENS, that most recent examples of this flagrant violation of international law in Europe and in the Middle East calls for re-examination of relationship between the existing legal obligations which the UN or the International Criminal Court or International Association of Juries they are talking about. And we have to use the character, just cogent character, which means that if any country or any nation state resorts to complete destruction and threat to international peace and security, then UN Security Council can withdraw veto power, because currently it is the veto power given to 5 superpowers, which is resulting in more than 100 resolutions which were put forward by different nation states, different NGOs in the UNHC about long-lasting peace and ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, and even in case of Ukraine war, Ukraine versus Russia war. So alarming information about the crimes committed in Ukraine and unthinkable violation of human rights committed in Israel and Gaza Strip, it compels us to remind ourselves what is the importance of these just cogence norms, which were also part of the UNSC, which everyone has forgotten, and they are not even talking about it. So, which the just cogence implies absolute restriction on genocide, slavery, slave trade, torture, and any kind of inhumane treatment. So here the veto power of the 5 permanent members of Security Council is not superior. What is superior is a ceasefire and long-lasting peace. So I think international community must create this kind of atmosphere where the UN General Assembly, along with the experts in international law, they continue to question the superiority of permanent members of Security Council construed after the Second World War, and particularly when it is evident that their veto right is politicized to the detriment of civilians, and the protection of human rights and application of international law should serve the purpose of protection of humanity, not only the interest of few superpowers. And I think it is very important to accept, and all resource persons and experts, they gave us evidence that how wars or conflict, they have the most devastating implication on intersectionally vulnerable community, specifically gender minorities, women, children, people, elderly people. So and the development budget, I think they are also the budget that should go for human development or gender development, that goes for the destructive purpose. So with this, I think we end this course, and we also commend the work done by the IMPRI team for bringing all of us together and also get the best resource persons for this course. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. With your permission, we can go for vote of thanks.
Yes.
So as we come to the end of the final day, day 8 of the LPPYF Law and Public Policy Youth Fellowship, Cohort 4.0, Winter 2024, theme being inclusivity in peace and conflict resolution, rethinking policy, advocacy, and implementation, an online national winter school program, a 3-month immersive online law and public policy awareness certificate training course and internship program. I, Shweta Shankar, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, would like to propose a formal vote of thanks on behalf of IMPRI, New Delhi. We are grateful to our chair, Professor Vibhuti Patel ji, our legal hands-on expert and advisor, Advocate Dr. Shalu Nigam, and expert for the day 8 session, Professor Asha Hans, for taking out their valuable time and for their thought-provoking insights on the topic today, and as well as throughout the fellowship program. We thank all of our participants who have raised pertinent questions and have actively participated. Readings for the session have been shared in your email, and a video of the session will also be shared with you for learning. Additionally, kindly fill up the feedback form to ensure that IMPRI continues to organize future events which cater to your academic interests and pursuits. It will be mailed to your emails respectively. We would be grateful if you're watching us later on YouTube, listening to us on our various podcasts, or reading our publications. We hope you continue to join in the future to our IMPRI Web Policy Talk and Web Policy Learning. Wishing you a good evening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Shweta. Okay, mine was muted. Thank you for moderating the session.